The next pattern in the composing methods series is called Introduce Explaining Variable. The idea behind this pattern is that you have a complicated expression and you can extract parts of that expression into a variable where you can assign a name that makes it a little more clear. So as a simple example here, we have this large conditional. As you can see just from the spacing, the conditional is based on essentially 3 or 4 different things here. And so we can start to extract some of these individual things. So we have this one right here that seems to be determining if the browser is a Mac. And so let's extract that into a variable. Call it is Mac OS. And then with that variable, you can replace the part of the conditional. And then we can do that with the remaining parts of the conditional as well. Call this is IE browser. Now this one's already its own thing, so we don't need to extract that at all. But just for completeness, we can do this one. Then you can space them however you like, something like that, although I think they're simple enough, we can put them all in one line. So essentially what we've done is take these larger, less obvious expressions and given them a name to make them a little more obvious. And so the actual logic is just reading through those names. So the conditional becomes a little more clear. Now we can see a larger example of something like this, where say we're trying to calculate something. Now the math behind this is pretty simple, and you can easily walk through and see what it's doing. But the point is, you have to take that moment to walk through it. You have to mentally parse this, when a few well-named variables would make that a lot faster. Now we see this a lot in code, and we'll often see, as is a usual indicator that something is in need of refactoring, that something can be made a little more clear, there's a comment trying to explain what this code is doing. Well, we can put that explanation in the code itself instead of in the comment. So for example, this price is base price minus quantity discount plus shipping. We have them conveniently on separate lines here. So let's start with this. This is the base price. And so we can replace that. And in fact, this expression is used again later, as we see, so we can use this again here. Now this is the quantity discount. And this is the shipping, or shipping cost. So essentially we've introduced these temp variables, which you might say we don't necessarily need, but what it does is it puts each individual expression into its own name. And in fact, we can get rid of that comment because it's superfluous at this point, because we know that the price is base price minus quantity discount plus shipping cost. Now there's even another approach we could take to this, and you might have thought that we would have done this in the first place. Instead of extracting these variables, we could do the same thing as we did previously in another pattern, We could extract methods for these. Something like, let's say, get base price. And get quantity discount. And finally, get shipping cost. The patterns essentially accomplish very similar things in this case, as well as in the case of the original examples for extract method. Now here, it's really just a matter of personal preference or a matter of what it is you plan to do with these methods or with these values. If you only need a temporary variable, then you just keep that in the scope of the function and just have it as an explaining variable. If, on the other hand, elsewhere in the object these might be useful, then you can extract a method. Or, as we covered in a previous example, we might want to convert the methods to properties. After all, we're only observing values here. We're not modifying them in any way, so there's no reason to think of it as a function. And so the top level method, the getPrice, has become considerably easier to read. Now, the original wasn't a complex calculation at all, but you did have to think about it for a moment. And so the purpose of this pattern is to alleviate that moment. So when you're scanning over the code, it becomes very simple. I think it was Grady Booch who said that clean code should read like well-written prose. Well, this reads in a way that makes more sense. Instead of reading it off as an equation with these math functions, you can just say base price minus quantity discount plus shipping cost. It's exactly what the original comment said. Well, now the code says it too. That's pretty much it for introduce explaining variable. Thanks for watching.